Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for continuing to review our community series. Today we are doing episode 3, which is a very interesting and continuity from episode 2. And as you know, community series is on will and letter of administration. I am Sukhdev from Law Chambers of Sukhdev, an advocate and solicitor of the High Court of Malaysia. I'm practicing in Kuala Lumpur. And today we have with me Jaxen Tan, who will speak to you about the trustee and the trust. So welcome, Jaxen. Thank you very much for doing this with us. Could you please introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you very much, Sukhdev, for having me here. Hi, everyone. My name is Jaxen. I'm a legacy advisor for Lee and Partners Legacy Advisory. What I do is I help everyday people with their legacy and estate planning so that people can actually secure a better future for their loved ones and for themselves.
Thank you. Okay, so Jaxen, tell us, how has 2020 been a challenge for you because of the pandemic?
I would say 2020 has been a really challenging year, but at the same time, it is a year of growth and change. I think the pandemic has really forced us to relook at a lot of things that is important in our lives. In a way, you can say that because of the pandemic, a lot of us are forced to stay at home rather than going out most of our time. And because of that, we actually not a lot more focused on what's important to us, like our families. Whereby those days we were so busy with work and social life, and we don't spend enough time with the family. And so right now, I feel that it is a good time because we actually get to see what's really important. Because when the world is in lockdown, who do we have with us besides our family? And because of that, I realized that a lot of people have started to look into things that are important to them and the family, like in their health, in their wealth, and which is why, in times like this, I realized a lot of people have actually looked into areas like, how to actually protect their assets, how to preserve it, how to grow, how to do inheritance. See, because we never know what will happen, especially with this pandemic, right? Any one of us could be, could
We are
actually
at
catch
risk.
this disease. Yeah, we are all at risk. So no, people don't know if today if you go out, what's going to happen. So it is a good time to actually start thinking about how to really protect and inherit our wealth, especially, so that in the end, it is not us who suffer, but our families who suffer if we don't plan correctly.
Okay, right. So now when I did episode 2, I had a question about whether one can one can include into the will people who that she or he does not want to be appointed as the legal guardian for the child. Now in that episode, I had mentioned that the testator, the person who's making the will, can always leave instructions as to how to manage the wealth, okay, in taking, when complying with his or her instructions in respect of the welfare and the education of the child, okay. So I had also mentioned that, to actually administer wealth, it's not an easy thing because it all depends on the maturity of the administrator and the ability to manage that wealth appropriately, and so that the wishes of the testator is carried out well. Okay. Now, my question to you is, how does or who can help the administrator to administer the wealth for the benefit of the child?
Okay, that's a really good question. Especially if the child is not of legal age yet, they actually cannot inherit, the assets that's given down. And like you said, managing the assets is no easy feat. What people can do is that they can actually appoint a trustee, okay, setting up a trust fund to actually help them manage this inheritance. Now, a lot of people, they're not very, especially in Asia, I think we are not educated about trust or how trust works. But the thing is, this is a very, very important inheritance tool that you can use to actually help you manage your assets when you're no longer around. So you can actually set up a trust fund to actually inherit all your assets over there to take care of it when your child is still not of legal age yet. So this trust fund, you can get it to actually assign out funds to your child on a periodical basis. For example, let's say you can actually assign them on a monthly basis, certain amount of money from the fund to actually sustain their welfare or their education. Also to ensure that the money doesn't go away so easily because you're actually managing it properly, even when you are no longer around. And this will actually help the administrator in the way they can manage this fund so that you know your child's welfare is well taken care of long after you're gone.
So you're saying that a trust fund can be established even now when we are around, and it continues thereafter.
Yes.
Okay.
There are many types of trust fund that you can do. You can actually do a living trust when you're around right now. You can actually do an insurance trust for when you're no longer around. Even people who run business, you can actually do a business succession trust. So there's actually a lot of different types of trust that you can do to really inherit your assets so that at the end of the day, your beneficiaries will benefit from it.
I see. Okay, could you show us, how the beneficiaries can benefit from this?
Okay, I have a simple video that I can share if it's okay for you.
Yeah,
Would
sure.
that be
Go
fine?
ahead. Yes,
A
yes.
simple one to explain to you how you can use the wills as well as trust together to create a system that you can really inherit your wealth down to your children and benefit them. Okay, give me
Okay,
a
sure.
moment.
That'll be interesting.
Let me just do a screen sharing. Hold on for a while. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. So
okay.
that's a good system for inheriting your assets and growing your wealth. And let's say this is you. And let's say you have some money. Let's just say, for example, you have 1 million ringgit with you. What we will normally do with this money is that we usually save about 90% of our money and we only spend about 10%. After all, who will spend all their wealth? Guess what? This is the wrong thing to do. Let's change all of this. Let's start over again. Let's say you have money. Let's say you have 1 million ringgit with you. This time, you're only going to save about 10% of your wealth and spend the balance 90%. I mean, after all, it's your hard-earned money. You deserve to spend them. So how do you have money to inherit? Guess what? What you will now do is take the money that you're going to be using and buy a life insurance policy worth 1 million ringgit. That way you will get 1 million ringgit when something happens to you. So how much does this actually cost for a 1 million ringgit life policy? Well, it's between 800 ringgit to 1,000 ringgit per month if you are within the age group of 30 to 40 years old. That's pretty good, right? Now, with this, you will go and set up a trust fund. That's right, a trust fund. I know you don't have to be a millionaire to set up a trust fund. Anyone can do a trust fund. And what you do is you write a will and you do a full assignment of your life insurance policy in case something happens to you. All the money will now go to the trust. So this trust will then help to support your children. Let's say you have a son and you have a daughter. So you can actually get this trust to do a periodical payout to your children so that they don't spend all your money at once. So your son and daughter could probably say that, you know what, let's pay them 2,000 ringgit a month to sustain their lifestyle. So they will get this money every month from the fund. And with this fund, you will also buy insurance policy for your children worth 1 million ringgit. So that if something ever happens to them, this money will go back into the fund, sustaining the lifespan of this trust fund. And with this fund as well, what you can also do is you can actually assign it a lot of duties. This is like you when you're no longer around. You can say, you know what, the money from this trust will be used for their education, or if they want to set up business, or if they want to do charity, you know, even give them as a bonus reward for achievement. Let's say they get some degrees, you pay them extra 10,000 ringgit. Emergency fund, marriage, can be anything. From here, what you will do is you will actually appoint a fund manager to actually manage this fund. And with this fund manager, they will actually help your fund to generate profits so that
actually continues the longevity of your trust fund. So this profit that they generate, let's say you take an average of maybe 5% per annum on a 1 million ringgit trust fund, you will actually be generating 50,000 ringgit a year. That's a lot of additional cash to use, right?
Wow. Thank you very much for that. It's certainly an eye-opener. Okay. Now you have stated there 1 million. Is that like a minimum sum, or it can be any amount?
No. That's just a figure that I play with that you can for presentation so that you can get an idea. But it can be any amount. It can be 100,000, can be 10,000. Doesn't matter. It just depends on how much money you want to give to your children. I think
see.
that's more important now. If
Okay.
you already have let's say if you already have money with you, you can put all of it into a living trust as well. It works anyway. But the concept of the trust is that it can actually help the administrator manage these funds so that they can actually, like I said, periodically channel the money to the children on a monthly basis. You can even give them rewards. Let's say, son, if you get a degree, you will get an ang pao of 10,000 ringgit from this trust fund. Daughter, if you get a degree, I will also give you. So the children have something to work for. They know money don't come so easily.
Yeah, true. Okay, so who would be this trustee? What sort of corporations?
Okay, you can work with corporations like RHB Trustee. I think the more common ones are like RHB Trustee. You can also work with companies like Rock Wheels. They can actually handle your trust for you. And companies are really good candidates to be handling your trust.
Okay, and that is actually very, very informative. So when a testator prepares a will and gives instructions to the administrator as to how the wealth is to be utilized for the welfare and education of the children, is it necessary for the testator then to name the trustee in the will? Or how would you answer that?
It's best that you have everything in your will. Okay, put it this way, the will is one of the single most important documentation ever for your inheritance.
Yes.
Everything has to be in the will. Even, let's say, like your EPF, your insurance policy and all this, because we already know that we have nomination in your EPF, correct? We already know that you have nomination in your insurance policy. But if you don't put it into your wills, the thing is, okay, how will your family members ever know what you have if it's not in your will? You have let's say you have a ringgit million insurance policy. You have money on your EPF, but your family is not aware of that, and no one's going to go and claim it if they don't know that it exists. So the will is a very important documentation whereby everything regarding your assets, your wealth, should be in the will. From your money in your bank. So some people, they have multiple bank accounts that maybe your family, your spouse may not even be aware of. You could have unit trusts in different companies and your spouse may not be aware of. So if it's not in your will, who is going to claim all of them? Which is why I would advise, whatever you have, make sure you put it into the will.
Okay. Yes, that's a very good point. You see, for all the bank accounts, you do not have to specifically mention how much is in each account because that amount will vary, but at least the name of the banks is included. As far as EPF and insurance is concerned, that can be mentioned in the will that there is insurance, that there is EPF, but of course they go by way of nomination. Right, but if no one is nominated in the nomination form and registered at the respective companies, then obviously the administrator will have to also apply together in the grant of probate or the letter of administration so that the monies can be withdrawn. Okay, and unit trust. Unit trust is again another thing that may differ from time to time. So as long as there is a mention that there is, all these investments, and if there is a trust company that has already been appointed, then it is worth mentioning it because the trust company will not be able to work with the administrator if there is no official document from the court that the administrator is appointed now to work with the trustee in the shoes of the deceased person. So if it is not mentioned, then it's going to be very difficult to move on for the loved ones or by the loved ones through the administrator, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we have actually come to the end of our segment now. The awareness that this episode 3 is bringing out about is the importance of being able to manage the funds, by the administrator, and if necessary, we can now look into appointing a trustee and having a trust fund that will enable the administrator to step into your shoes and carry out the instructions and your wishes when the unfortunate day arrives. Okay, right, with that, thank you very much, Jaxen. Would you like to add any last few words for our viewers?
What I can say is, do your wills. No matter what age group you are in right now, no matter which state of your life you're in right now, it's something important that you may not think it's important now, but trust me, just do it.
Okay, so this has been a general advice for everybody on the importance of writing a will. Okay, please do seek legal advice from your lawyers, or you may contact me. I am Sukhdev from Law Chambers of Sukhdev, and we can give you the legal advice that you require, because every person's situation is fact sensitive. Okay, so with that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a better 2021 for everybody. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Goodbye.